Hi everybody, Veronica Cole here, and I'm doing a soul chat tonight. I something that has been bothering me for a long time, and I thought I would talk about it tonight because to me it's an interesting subject, and it's about spiritual bypassing. The thing that I find so interesting about it is that, first of all, I didn't even realize that there was such a thing, but I'd been hearing snippets of it for probably the past 5 years and never really knew quite where it came from. So I did a little bit of research about that because, first of all, spiritual bypassing it's about avoiding or escaping difficult life situations. So that's an interesting thing in itself, right? And in 1989, the psychologist John Wellwood came up with what he considered to be a definition. And I'm going to read it to you because I thought it was kind of interesting. So this is from the inception of where it came from. Spiritual bypassing is a term I coined to describe a process I saw happening in the Buddhist community I was in and also in myself. Although most of us were sincerely trying to work on ourselves, I noticed a widespread tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. Wow, that's kind of a big thing, right? And so spiritual bypassing, you use it to avoid things like, you can use it to avoid or suppress or escape, right? So there are very different ways that it manifests and takes form, but it's about addressing you think you're addressing anyway, uncomfortable life situations that you don't want to deal with. And this could be the loss of a loved one. It could be a relationship breakup, family problems, childhood abuse, loneliness, low self-esteem. It could be a myriad of things. And it could be your emotional health and so many other life issues. But spirituality becomes a crutch to face all of these things that we don't want to deal with and this turmoil that's in our life. And I do have to say that, there are times when we need this because we're human and life is difficult and life can hurt. So, however, it becomes a problem when it's used like a drug to, bypass the darker side of ourselves, like doing shadow work or inner child wounded work, that sort of thing. And I'm going to give you an example of this because it's the best way I can think of describing it. And this really, for me, answered a lot of my questions when I was thinking about it. So when my first brother died, I was taking every moment that I could to pray. And I was praying and I was doing these spiritual practices. And at the time I was very involved in studying very heavily Science of Mind, which is not Scientology, by the way, but it's about Christ consciousness, but it's not about a dogma per se, not a religious dogma. And I felt very good about being in that place because this helped me to cope. And everything that I was doing, I thought was a good thing, but really what I was doing was trying to run away from the uncomfortable and unbearable grief that I just could not tolerate, which was the loss of my brother. And it was a sudden loss. So what then happened was this was going on for roughly 3 months, and I felt like I was in this place where I was accepting and I was okay with it. Not that I was loving it, by the way, not that because I've always said that, I didn't have to lose my brother in order to obtain some sort of enlightenment. But what happened is 3 months later, my second brother died suddenly. These were both accident related. And so what happened is I became very angry, inconsolable, and the spirituality went right out the window. I just said, what is the good of this? I don't need any of this. It just created more pain, and I don't need it. And I turned away from my spiritual self and my spiritual needs for roughly, I think it was about 6 years, because I was struggling to try to find a way to cope with this. And it was challenging. It was very challenging. And I'll go into that more because I'm doing a 5-day workshop, and I talk about this in some of my 5-day workshop coming up. But it was, first of all, this was grounded in what I thought was spirituality for the contending with the death of my youngest brother. But then it snowballed because I wasn't dealing with the intense grief or the intense pain that I had. And I don't know what would have happened if I had been able to really, at that point, been able to give it a whole lot of attention, because I wasn't in a place where I could give it attention. I was just in a place of trying to make it through day to day. And, there were other things around me that were going on. There was family, there was other siblings, and their needs and their situation became paramount to me too. And so, plus, I was still my young self too, and I was trying to cope with all this as a young adult, and nothing seemed to help. So temporarily I had a Band-Aid with my what I thought was my spirituality when my first brother died, because it helped me temporarily to get through what I thought were probably some very difficult moments. But again, like I said, because I had not been able to really deal with it, and I didn't want to. I was just putting it in this category of this spiritual event. It happened, and I was okay with it. He was in a good place. But like I said, it all fell apart when the second brother died, because I realized this was all BS. I didn't feel that way about any of it. I felt betrayed. And so I needed all of me to be whole. And I'm not sure how quickly that would have happened if I would have had the right resources around me to make myself whole. But I was in a therapeutic relationship, and that person was wonderful. But again, when that second event happened, nobody could console me. I was very angry. I was, confrontational with anybody that would suggest anything that was like a sane conversation about it, because I was filled with what I thought was so much insanity about the whole thing. And so it had me trapped. I was really trapped. And I had to go through the dark night of the soul. And which means that, I had no choice at that point. Well, I did have a choice because I made the first choice. But at that point, because I was so disillusioned with spirituality and with what I thought life had been throwing at me, because it felt like I had been something had been thrown at me. I just had no choice but just to kind of struggle along. Now, all along, I was doing certain things that were perhaps putting me in touch with some feelings, but I was in this deep freeze, and I really had to work through that deep freeze, first of all. And, you know, what gives light, this is what Viktor Frankl said, you know, what gives light must endure burning. This is what Viktor Frankl had said. And this is so absolutely true with any of our life situations, because, you know, for whatever reason, it seems like there are tons of challenges in life. And, not everything is love and light. Not everything is all unicorns. And I'm not saying that this is what all people do. And I'm not saying that people should abandon their spirituality. Quite the contrary. The spirituality is the root of who you are. But the trick is, and I think it, you know, for me, it was a trick, but the trick is trying to hold on to those spiritual elements in you while having this life destructive disaster going on in your life, like what I felt was happening to mine. So perceiving love and light is all fine, but you have to work through so many things. I had to work through a lot of my limiting beliefs about myself. I had to work through a lot of my limited beliefs about people. I mean, I had beliefs about people that I thought were going to protect me, that were going to save me. I never thought about the fact that they would have to protect and save my brothers, because quite frankly, I thought even with my second brother that I was going to be the protector and I was going to be the one to save, because that's kind of my role. And we were both had that role because we were the oldest in a family of 7. So spirituality can be shattering. Spirituality can be tumultuous, and it can test all of our inner strength, and it can take all of our strength to work through the demons or the wounded part of us that has been around since our childhood. And I would have to say that, you know, most of us, whether we intended, whether we saw it like this or not, we have a very wounded part of ourselves, whether it happened as the result of witnessing something or as the result of, well, I would say things that were done to you, but also unintentionally done to you, but they created a wound. And, you know, it still exists. If we haven't talked about, if we haven't worked it through, it's still deep in your body. It's still deep in your emotional body, and it's still deep in who you are. So I just want people to understand that although it's so important, and it can really, spirituality can really help you, and it can energize you, because it's the power of love. It's the power of all of these wonderful energies that can just bring you up into another place that you never thought possible. It can take you out of the doldrums and help you realize who you are. But that's what you have to do first. You have to realize who you are. You have to realize that you are a powerful being all unto yourself. You have many gifts, and you don't even know what they are, because none of us do until we really explore the dark sides of ourselves. And this will be going on until the day I die. I'm always going to be exploring. I'm always going to be wondering. There's always going to be something that I'm going to be uncovering. But when it comes to spiritual bypassing, you know, I guess you could say that it may be a necessary thing sometimes, because we all need a little bit of denial to get through something. But then there comes a time when we have to deal with life. We have to deal with what's causing our pain. And you have to face your shadow and heal your wounded child. So one of these things a few of these things you can do is cultivate an open mind and know that you're not perfect. You never will be. And, examine the dark sides of yourself. Be open to doing that, examining the dark and the light, balancing it, looking at it, and just looking at your attributes and looking at the side that is hidden often because it doesn't feel good or it doesn't feel right or you don't think it looks good. Just be willing to look at it. Do a reality check with trusted people that you care about, that you feel that you can talk to them about something. I'm fortunate I have trusted people in my life, and I'm also an advocate of therapeutic work, and again, until the day you die. Of course, I'm not really at the end of that point yet, but I'm thinking that it's something that I believe in very, very strongly, because we all need another person that we may not be necessarily connected to in our daily lives. And also face and feel your pain. That's the most important thing to do. And that's why inner child work is so critical to your self-growth and to your eventual success in your life and discovering your purpose and who you are. You know, facing and feeling your pain is not easy. Nobody wants to do it, really. Really, everybody wants change, but nobody wants to do it. Shouldn't say nobody, because there may be somebody out there that is willing to do that. I wasn't so willing. I wanted to change, but it took me a while to recognize, and thank God I had the kind of therapist that wasn't telling me that I was in for some pain. But she slowly helped me to work that through. And which I believe all good therapy needs to be, is not a ripping off of the Band-Aid, but just a slow peeling, because the ripping off, it just provides an intellectual answer to things, and that's not really an answer. It's just an intellectual something that you're, stuffing information in your head, but it's not experiential. So really work on the fact that you're worth it, and that you're willing, and that you want to grow, and that you want to find a greater life, and that you want to know what you're meant for, and that you want to be able to pass this on to your children, and to help actually to spread this and make this a better world for all of us. Lord knows that we're in this crazy place now. So this is only going to help people. But first of all, it's going to help you. So just remember, this is not fun, and it needs to be dealt with. And the way that you can do that too is through breath work, which I will do in my workshop, mindfulness, which is critical, journaling, art therapy, and inner child work. Can't say enough good things about it. So that was my soul chat for today, and I will be back on next Wednesday. This is going to be posted tomorrow for 4 o'clock for the soul chat, but I wanted to bring it up today. And I also want to say that I'm going to be doing my free 5-day Facebook workshop, and that's going to start November 9th at 3 p.m. And there's going to be a registration page. And I'm going to post it. I'm going to be posting it in a lot of places. But if you join my group, which is Sacred Alchemy After Loss, it will be in there for you to go into, and that's where the Facebook will be taking place. So I hope everybody has a rest of a good evening, and I hope to see you soon. All right? Be well. Thanks for tuning in, too. It was really great to know that you're on here. All righty. Bye-bye now.